Welcome to the Empower Me Show with Pam Bright. This show is all about honoring you as a spiritual being, having a human experience. You are here for a reason, and it's no mistake that you are here on Earth right now. Spirit has guided you to this very moment in time, so you could hear the messages Pam is about to share with you. She is a multi-dimensional healer, light language channel, transformation coach, wife and mother, committed to helping you discover the tools and practices to empower you to live the best life you can. You get to choose the spirit path you take. You can connect to the spiritual guidance already all around you. Get ready to live a fully empowered life. This is the Empower Me Show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Empower Me Show. My name is Pam Bright. I am your hostess for this program. I am so glad that you have joined me once again. There are many of you that continue to tune into the show every week. Thank you so much for doing that. We've been going now for quite a few years, so thank you for that honor and privilege of continuing to support you on your spiritual path. And those of you who are tuning in live, new from all over the world, thank you so much. I know there's some of you that come from other countries other than the USA, so thank you for tuning in. Whatever time zone you're in, thank you for joining us. We are here today with a beautiful spiritual intuitive named Leah Guy, who is joining us from what town are you joining us from, Leah?
I'm in Jersey City, New Jersey currently.
Perfect. All right. So we're getting the crossover from multiple states here joining us on this show. And Leah is going to share with us about her journey with overcoming many of the obstacles that she has had on her life's path, including addiction and toxic abuse and sexual trauma and those kinds of things that really have stopped her from living her full life and her passion, which is helping you in your life and your journey be all that you can be. And so we're going to talk a little bit more with her about that part of her world, and she's going to share with us about these wonderful books that she has written to allow us to learn how to overcome our toxic emotions, overcome anything that's in the way from us really opening fully to our purpose and our vision for our lives. So before we move on, I'm going to do some grounding for us because it's really important for me personally to do that so that I come back fully into this form that I live in and let go of anything that's in the way, because I've got lots going on personally in my life and in my family. And so this helps me to just take a nice deep breath and come into my center. So if you're in a position where you can close your eyes, go ahead and do that. If you need to stay focused on whatever you're doing, go ahead and do that, and know that as we're talking and sharing with you, that you will get as much out of this conversation as you possibly can get, even if you need to be conscious and aware. So if you can, close your eyes. I invite you to do that. And I invite you to tune into your heart space. I like to put one hand on my solar plexus or my belly and one hand on my heart. That gives my body permission to connect in with my physical self as well as my soul signature self. And as you tune into your breath, I want you to tune into that breath breathes you automatically. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to make it happen. You don't have to think about how any of the systems in your body are functioning. They do that automatically as a human being. They know how to have a relationship with one another. They inform one another. They allow you to function as a human being in this world. And as we connect, each of us connects our soul self, that energy self that is within us, that connects us to our creator, God, universe, mastermind, whatever that is, the essence that put everything together. And your totems and guides and teachers, you connect that in with your physical self. That's really an honoring of your full body system wellness. So just allow all of that information to come in as you focus on your breath. And I'm going to bring some light language in, which is the way to connect you to those parts of you together. Ela tesana neki ababaye tarabaya udeda zenda bada eduama elukuchurara mesinda mayuzende uzana mekiama ke unduzu noye anazeite uye hule 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 shana zeda yazade ayateke ayateke usanana o se shashana yesatike no se namanaki chena mama e sundu sanama neki chena ma ine o se sa 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 e sumbaba. And as you connect in with that essence and you're feeling your body fully inside of yourself, fully integrated, feel yourself in your seat wherever you are. If you're walking, feel your feet on the ground as you're walking. And come back into this moment. Open your eyes. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. So I do this every time that we have our show, and it's going to be different every time. So just tune in to hear what those souls are saying to me, that light essence that comes through me. Allow it to speak to you and to connect to you however it needs to connect today. So welcome, Leah, to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. So you are a writer, obviously. How long have you been writing, would you say?
Well, I don't identify as a writer, but I've been writing for 8 years.
Okay. It's
Mhm.
interesting. You don't identify as a writer. So how would you say that is? Does it come channeled in? Do you connect in and say, okay, what do we need to say today?
Yeah, I think it's I just feel like I have messages to share, and the medium of writing has been one of those ways. And so when the opportunities came, I said yes, and off we went.
I love that. I love that. That's actually something that I've done too, is that I got inspired many years ago to write some poetry that came through. I was like, and it all came in one lump sum. I was like, whoa, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? And it
Mm.
sat there for many years until now, when now I'm putting other pieces together to because it's time, right? And when
Mhm.
we're connected to our soul self, to our spirit self, we get messages, don't we, all the time about, okay, do this, do that, do the other thing. And it's like, well, wait a minute. How am I supposed to know that that's the right path? How am I supposed to know that's going to make any sense? Well, Leah's going to share with us how we can know about that. How is it that we can follow that intuition? How is it that we can let go of what doesn't serve us any longer? So tell us about, I know that you just recently wrote a book called Overcoming Toxic Emotions that you're going to share with us. What was the first book that you wrote? And is it like a journey of your own life that these books have been created?
Partially, yes. The first book was called The Fearless Path. It's a radical awakening. And that was prompted, I work with clients and people all over the world for many, many years now. And so that book was kind of a culmination of helping a person understand energy and our bodies and our minds and the connection of those things, and how symptoms and imbalances and so forth show up in our physical lives, our emotional lives. And so each chapter kind of goes through the different chakras and the different elements that are governed by those energy fields, and where we can become imbalanced or overactive or stagnant or what have you. So I do share in all of my work that I do my personal stories, just as a means to relate to the audience and to the reader. So
Okay, awesome, good. Glad to hear that. So, so let's take a pulse on the listeners right now, because I know you're incredibly intuitive and you're very connected.
mhm.
So let's take a little pulse with who's listening. And I know I definitely get these pulses beforehand, and I'm just wondering if you got kind of a pulse of who might be listening right now, and
Mm,
what is it that is up right now in the collective that is really needing to be talked about?
victim mentality.
Okay.
Victim
Right.
mentality, the core wound of shame, which I think collectively, there's a lot of disturbance around and healing around. And but the victim piece, I think, is really up right now.
Okay. So for those who are like, well, how do I know if I'm victimized versus any other way? Um, can you kind of tell people, well, what does that really mean? We hear that terminology, and
Mhm.
what does it mean to be victimized? What does it mean to have a stance of I'm a victim in the world
Mhm.
versus a survivor, or a winner, or some other terminology?
Yeah. Well, I think we can answer that question easily when we think about what has been done to us, and how we are because of that. I talk a lot in my last book about, us living out of our stories and not the present moment, the reality of what is. And our stories are important because they've informed a lot of our behavior and personality and decisions and so forth, but they are not who we are. And when we're in any kind of projection, blaming, even just being outside of ourselves, not embodied fully, we're oftentimes in a victim mentality when we need validation from other people, for example, when we are in relationship to try to serve some emotional purpose. Oftentimes, those are cues that we're in a victim state.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I definitely have had times in my life where that was present. I had so much toxicity within me. You talk about, overcoming abuse and neglect and sexual addictions and um, eating disorders and that type of thing. And I know for myself, when I was in my world of addiction and my world of overcoming sexual abuse and those kinds of events that happened for many, many people in the world, that I had no power because I felt like it was tattooed across my forehead, everything that was in the way of me being fully present in my life. And I didn't even know if I wanted that. Like,
Right.
how do we, when we start having those feelings of, I know I'm here for something more, but I have all this stuff that's right here in my way.
Mhm.
How do we start dealing with that? How do we start overcoming that?
Well, I think this is the reason why we feel called to our healing work to, to help us kind of create a different relationship to it, to ourselves, and to spirit, so that we can. I don't want to say, obviously, my book is called Overcoming, and we do overcome these things eventually, but even that word sets up for a lot of people like, there's something I need to fix. And if there's something I need to fix, then there's something broken. And if there's something broken, something's wrong with me. And now we're back to the shame wound, you know? So I think the relationship to it is what is going on within me, and take full responsibility for that state. The why and the how and the when and all that information is important to just, you know, kind of cognitively be aware of how we got here. But we are the only ones responsible. And we have been given everything that we need to heal, to restore, to regenerate, to make conscious choices. So we have to learn how to be in our conscious mind in the here and now, not in our subconscious, not in our programs, not in our imprints, but how this moment is right now. We get addicted, we create habits, we think we know how we are and how the world is going to be, and so we just kind of keep living off of those routines. And there's so much more available when we're in the now. When we're in the now and conscious, in fact, it's usually quite calm, you know, and that's what everyone wants. But to do the work to learn how to do that, people don't necessarily enjoy that process. But anyway,
let's talk a little bit about that. Okay, so let's say I'm, you know, I'm early on in my development spiritually, and I'm like, okay, I've got all this stuff opening to me, and okay, I'm having spirit guides talk to me, and I'm hearing things, and I'm seeing things, and I've got this big, huge thing on my chest that says I'm not good enough, or I was abused, or I don't have enough money, or whatever the imprint is here, right? I'm walking around like this, but yet all this stuff is opening to me. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do with this? Like for a person coming into your office, or I don't know how you work, but on Zoom or on the phone, where do you start with them? What do you say to them? How does this what's another option to this everyday, all the time world of survival?
yeah. Well, it depends, you know, everyone's different, of course. So it depends on where a person is. We're all where we are. In my book, I give 3 steps. It's, you know, acknowledge, accept, and take action. And those things sound really easy, but they're not, because just acknowledging, as I was just saying, it's a very different day when we acknowledge how we are in the moment and honor that and take care of ourselves there, versus how we think we should be, or how we were 5 minutes ago, or how we were yesterday. So, you know, if we want to give it 2 words, maybe the words would be stop and stay. Stop, just become present here. Stop the thinking, stop the doing, stop the efforting, and stay with yourself in the moment. And again, it sounds very, very easy, but it's not easy. It's like we want to get distracted. We're addicted to these feelings. We're concerned about our imprints, and we start feeling guilty, or the inner critic comes up, or our inner child gets activated, or we're afraid that we don't belong. You know, all of the emotions start stirring that we haven't given enough attention to. But in the moment, and everyone can practice this right now, in this moment, what is going on? For me, I hear traffic, I hear a waterfall, my puppy is taking a nap, I'm talking with you, and that's it. There is nothing else going on. And if I'm by myself and I'm not talking to you, then I have the opportunity to consider, to listen, to let my nervous system regulate, to stay in my body, and to just notice. And what I notice is, oh, I'm not anxious right now, actually. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'm a little tired, but I feel completely like a different person than I did yesterday. Or, oh, you know, this sensation is starting to come up in me that wants some attention. What is that sensation? And so if we just stop and stay, I'm always saying this about any kind of addiction, whether it's physical, behavioral, mental, whatever. it's the easiest thing in the world, really, to do, is to get over an addiction or to overcome. But it's the hardest thing because it requires nothing. We don't need to do anything. We need to stop.
Yes.
And there's this idea of stopping is doing something. It's all this effort, but that's us being in conflict with ourselves and being in conflict with the thing. And if we just stop and stay and reduce that conflict, there's actually nothing to do. But then in the nothingness, we have ourselves. And that's where the percolation of discomfort, another kind of discomfort may come up. You know, if we've been repressing any kind of resentment or dissatisfaction or self-loathing or what have you. And it gives us the time and the awareness to actually deal with what's going on within us and not distracted by all these other things. So,
Yeah, that's perfect. So that actually leads me right into this is how this program always works for me, is that I listen and then I'm like, oh, that that thing. So let's talk about tools. Okay, so we stopped. We're staying with present with what is. What's one tool that one of the listeners that's listening right now could use to stay present with all of the stuff of life going on for them?
well, I am a very big fan of our physical bodies because we are in this dimension and we have this density to us in this 3D body. And no matter how spiritual we want to be or how spiritual we are, and there's not even a qualifier for that, but although we are spiritual beings, we are here in our bodies. So let's use our bodies. So, what we can do to assist our emotional state, our mental state, and our spiritual state is to get in our body fully. So, in that way, we can use any of our senses. We can practice taste. We can practice listening with our ears. We can practice the practice of just noticing what I see. We can use our skin and our feet and our hands to get connected, to get grounded, either to ourselves, to another sentient being, to a plant, to the earth, to a tree, to whatever. And when we're doing these things, we can use food to get connected to nourish ourselves, to balance ourselves. The physical body is an instrument for us. It's not against us. It's here for us. It is one of our greatest tools that we have. And when even like meditating and so forth, we can utilize our body in meditation. We can, recline, for example, maybe using some crystals or water elements or sea salt or sound. And again, engage all of our body to be fully present together. For so many people, especially if they have any kind of trauma or complex trauma or anxiety or feeling ungrounded or any, all of our woundedness, right? It's very easy to dissociate. It's very easy to energetically slip out of ourselves. It's very easy just to not be here.
Yes.
And our body is number one tool of, oh, I am here.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And the thing that I keep hearing right now over and over again is, again, you will find your tool that works for you, and there's many tools, but the thing that I'm hearing over and over again is move, right? So, because I'm really amazing at visualizing, and I'm very amazing at using crystals, and I'm amazed. I'm really good at listening to music and being still. My challenge is move my body.
Right. Well, again, so
Right?
you're using your entire physicalness,
Yeah.
to get, and somatic therapy is excellent. And if anyone's listening, I mean, other tools, of course, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, EFT, tapping, acupressure, movement, barefoot walking on the beach or the grass or what have you, like all of these things, it's not woo woo. There's absolutely nothing woo woo about it. It's the most practical and immediate form of embodiment.
Yes.
Like you have an upset tummy. First thing you do, just rub your tummy in a clockwise motion with love, with intention. Be soft, be caring, be soothing, and watch if your tummy doesn't just feel a little bit better immediately, right? there's different access points, in our collarbone, our earlobes, behind our ear, the top of the head, our wrist points. Like there's so many points in our body that they are immediate access to help calm down our body, to help regulate things, to get us grounded. So our body it's just, people take it so for granted, I think, and we don't want to necessarily look at the body when we're talking spiritually. But the body it's our temple.
I agree. One of the things that I have taught and I have really worked on in this show, but also in my life is, okay, so I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, which means I got to honor both, right? And I can tell you, folks, for many, many years, probably the first half of my life, I did not honor myself. I didn't honor my body. I didn't want anything to do with it. It had been hurt and traumatized and abused and neglected. And it was, it had bumps and bruises and fat and cellulite and, all kinds of stuff going on in this physicalness that I couldn't stand, right? Once I realized that, for me, it took a stroke and a coma for me to get, oh, wait, this is my physical self. I have to take care of it if I'm going to get to stick around again, right? So I chose to physically come back to this body. I could have just exited. I was given that choice. But I realized in that moment of connection, and I was told that I wasn't done yet, I came back and realized, oh, okay, now I have the opportunity to take care of this physical vessel. Nobody else can do it for me. I've got to do it myself. And so I've taken the last 20 years to learn about not hating myself, to learn about not using food and cigarettes and drugs and alcohol to cover it up. And now I'm on the next part of the journey, which is, okay, so I've got some things that need some help. And this is the time. This is the time. I'm 62. I've still got some life in me. I get to move forward, but this physical body needs help. And it's up to me to take care of it. So what is your challenge right now? Those of you who are listening and watching this, where's your, kind of rub up against thing that you're dealing with? Your issue, your trauma, oh God, I don't have time to deal with that. Sometime when I have time, I'll deal with that. Well, guess what? Now's the time. Now's the time. So we're talking about tools. We're talking about your best-selling book. What do you want to tell us about your book? Because it's your new baby.
Oh, good. Well, actually, it's been out for a little bit. It is my newest baby, but what I want to tell you about it, oh gosh, there's a lot about it. I think that, well, on the heels of what you just said, also to remind, this isn't a pageant. This isn't a perfection goal, us working on ourselves, that we all have toxic emotions and it's not, the goal isn't to get rid of everything and just be perfect. The goal is to understand our programs and our patterns so that we have more choice for ourselves, And when I'm working with people with addiction, myself included, again, going back to that piece of reducing conflict within us, if we have conflict with the thing or the behavior or whatever, it's going to be extremely hard to move beyond that. If we can get into a state of harmony and reduce the conflict, meaning we're not aiming for perfection, and maybe this thing isn't the best thing for me physically or mentally or what have you, but instead of being in conflict with it before I engage in it, because I know I'm going to engage with it, how can I create more harmony, less guilt, less shame, less self-hatred about the thing? If I'm going to eat a box of cookies, it'd be a lot better for my body to take in those cookies and just enjoy the heck out of them, than to sit there and eat the cookies and be constrained and hating myself because I'm doing it. So that piece is so critical. And also just understanding like our imprints and our wounds that were formed early on, even if we had a really great childhood, they affect so much of our lives and our frequency and how we manifest and experience our reality. And so much of that is in our control. So that's why I wrote this book, was to help encourage people to understand why they do and think and behave the way that they do. And is there something else that's possible here? And how, to support them in doing that.
I love that. I love that. So when a person is dealing with a lot of guilt and shame, and well, tell me if this is true. Would you say that guilt and shame only comes from our past and then we carry it forward? Or is it something that can erupt from a current circumstance?
Well, I
And
think those are two different things. So I think the guilt or shame imprint comes from our past, and that informs a lot of the ways that we think about ourselves and how we operate in the world. But we can certainly have guilt and shame from current circumstances that could then potentially imprint us, but it's never going to imprint us the same way it did when we were young.
okay, all right. Interesting. So for those of you, I know that many of you have, as I said, followed me for quite a while. So I would suspect that you probably have been on this journey for quite a while. We would love to hear what you're doing that is working or what you're doing that's not working for your life. So if you want to talk to us, we do still have time to do that. And that phone number, I believe, is on your screen. If it's not, and you're not watching, but listening, that phone number is 1-800-930-2819. And you can ask Leah anything that that is on your heart, or be witnessed. That's another really, really key piece, I think, in our healing journey, is to be witnessed in what we're going through. If you want to chat in the chat line, you don't want to talk to us because, for whatever reason, public speaking freaks you out, which many of us have that, then go ahead and type in the chat box and we'll receive your question or comment or need for healing today. So one of the things that I really like to ask each person that comes on is, you did mention at the beginning of the show that you feel like people are really dealing with victimization. Do you want to expand a little bit on that? And is there anything else that's really, really important that you get to highlight in this program for yourself and the world?
Yeah. Well, I think with the victimization also that, collectively where we are going energetically and spiritually, I think it's kind of asking all of us to review this. So it's not just, some of us or the ones that are really suffering with it. It's like wherever and however we're carrying that energy, it's not supportive of where we're going collectively and spiritually as a whole. So it's kind of like, it's time to put down the stories of the past. They don't have the same purpose for us anymore. And the other thing I would I guess highlight is that it's very important to learn how to trust ourselves in one's life. It's probably one of the key foundations to becoming more confident, a sense of more wholeness, feeling one with all, all of that is learning how to trust ourselves.
I agree. I agree. Trust is huge. And again, if we're looking at our past, I don't know about you, folks that are listening, but for me, I didn't trust. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust you. I didn't trust anybody, right? So I
Right.
had to learn how to do that. And I didn't do it all at once. Maybe there was one person or one feeling or one book or one piece of music that I could trust. Okay, I'm getting some information from this piece of music. It's healing my heart. Great, awesome. Keep listening to that until that wounding lessens, right? Or maybe there's a book that you've read and you're like, "Ah, it makes so much sense. Yes, I can trust that book." Is there one person that you can reach out to, that you allow into that inner sanctuary? What is it? What's that one piece of trust that you can hang on to move you forward? So let's talk about where we're going. You had mentioned that we can't take, doesn't serve us to take those stories from our past into the future. What is opening? What are you connected to? Because you're connected shamanically as well as with every other piece of your healing journey that you use.
Yeah. Well, I know, clearly we are in divisive times. However, we've always been in divisive times. We will always maintain the polarity because that's part of the experience here. So it's unrealistic to think it will all be sunflowers and sunshine and, butterflies from here on out. However, there is a, a service of this great divide in a way that those who are willing and able and interested and curious to expand their intuition, to expand their heart space, to expand their consciousness and awareness, that there is a new earth collecting. And I don't believe we will not see this in our lifetime for sure, but I don't believe it will be so divisive that it's like this group of people or this group of people, because will always be the coexistence. But we're even seeing it now, the surgence of the amount of people that are interested in spirituality or any of its any of the niches around spirituality. We're seeing young people coming into the world with a much elevated sense of awareness, understanding, and maturity,
Yes.
soulfully, spiritually, and emotionally. It's a quickening, and there's so much joy and beauty in this new world. And in that way, again, it won't be like everything's roses and cherries and rainbows. However, if we can do this work of detaching and unhooking from the perpetrators, because we're not a victim anymore, if we can learn how to really keep our integrity and our energy as clear and as clean and be autonomous yet engaged with one another, connected in that higher frequency way, then the relief I find, I feel into a lot of relief of just a purity, almost like a great cleansing kind of happening.
Yeah.
So that's what I think, where, and a lot more people being able to sense, with their first sense, our intuitive sense, our higher sense. It's interesting to me. I've never even had this discussion, but this is what I'm hearing right now. It's like, we're watching AI develop and take great hold in our world. And there's an intelligence there that it's just mind blowing how they're feeding that intelligence. And also in that same way, the polarity in the spiritual and consciousness way, there is an intelligence that is forming there. We will never be what do I want to say? Outsmarted, I guess. But it's like this kind of race of the mushrooming and blossoming of intelligence. And so I think we have to be really aware of that and how we're either part of that solution and the family of the oneness or not.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. Because here in the USA, there's a lot to be said for, I am an independent, I am autonomous, and that's great. You know, many of us have spent decades trying to get there. But isn't it interesting that at the same time as that's going on, we're also talking about, you know what? I'm looking for my tribe. Where's my people? You know, let's all come together. Let's do some more summits and conferences and retreats and groups collectively coming together to learn from each other and grow spiritually. So isn't it interesting? There's like, you know, the
Yeah.
opposites here again, right? So what is it? How do we have both? You know,
Well, I think that's the
it's not an either or
right.
anymore. It's a both.
Exactly. And that's what I mean is the polarity. It is here to teach us. There's no greater truth than understanding and accepting that love and pain coexist. They always will, they always have, and they are. And if we can learn to hold space for that, then we have the harmony. We are saying yes, we're open and available to the highest consciousness. And a lot of people don't want to claim or own their shadow stuff or their challenges or what have you, or you know, they still have that mentality of I need to fix myself. That's not the energy that we're talking about. It's holding space for all of it. Can I hold
Yes.
space for the pain without decimating myself, without tearing myself down? Can I just hold space for it?
Yes. Yes. So in the addiction world that I've lived with in most of my life, actually, since I was 20, we talk about inventory. We talk about self-seeking and going within to see what's there, right? So that we can then purge it out and release it, what no longer serves us. But we also look at what's working and what we have that we are proud of and that we're happy about and that, you know, we can celebrate. So this is the time that we get to do that,
Mhm.
right? There's also, if you're interested in, wow, how did I get to be this way? And why is my family all whacked like this? You can also do, I mean, this is the day and age, folks, where you can really research anything. One of the things that I am aware of is that there was a wonderful man in the addiction education system named John Bradshaw, and he wrote many books. He had many speaking engagements and conferences and public speaking things on um, I don't even remember what it's called now, but anyway, about the dysfunctional system, the dysfunction of human beings. And he talks about how, you know, it's a melting pot. It's a collective on this planet now of every single person acting out everything that they were taught from their parents and their parents and their grandparents and, you know, generationally. So if you're feeling like you're alone in the universe, like how did this world get the way it is? And why am I having to suffer from the sins of my great, 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 great ancestors? Well, guess what? There's a thought process that maybe you chose that. Something about your soul said, you know what? I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that trajectory. I'm going to change that pattern by incarnating into a body and then shifting what we're doing here in order to have a different outcome. So think about that. Those of you who are having those questions come up for you. If you want to talk more about that generational wounding, then that is available from those of us who have been there in our own wounding and those of us who have practices that can clear it out and then bring you back to the present. And I know that that's something that you have done in your life and I've done in my life. And that is why we're here, is to help you open to who you are in your greatness on this planet. So we do have probably about 10-ish minutes or so left. So in those times, what is your favorite thing to share when you're on a show like this?
Oh, wow. My favorite thing to share regarding what? Anything?
Anything,
It's a big
anything in
question.
your heart, anything that any service that you provide, those that are on the journey with you, anything that you're like, you know what? I talk about this a little bit on shows, but this is what I really love to do in sessions.
Mm. Well, I really love to connect people to the other side. Yeah. And either by means of like soul retrieval work or mediumship or, just tuning in to help them feel more trusting and remember who they are and the availability of spirit to them and all that. That's what I love to talk about.
Okay, all right. So for those who don't know what you mean when you say mediumship, what is that?
I'm talking to people who have passed over.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
This is a show where we offer tools, tips, and techniques for the journey. So
Mm.
for those of you who are like, I want more of that. I want to talk to my great Aunt Rose that passed, a few years ago or last, 10 years ago or whatever it is. Leah would be the one to talk to about that. And how do they find you if they want to talk to you about that and have that session?
Yeah, my website, which is leahguy.com. It's LEAHGUY, or on social media at Leah the Modern Sage. That's how you can contact me.
Now, how did you get that tagline, the modern sage?
Actually, probably 20 years ago, I bought this online magazine called Modern Sage, and I created a storefront years later and a product line. It was all Modern Sage, Modern Sage. I just love the name, and it felt very, just felt right on to me. I don't even remember how I bought the name in the magazine, but I remember when I saw it, I was like, yes, that's mine, because it felt like who I was, and what I did. And I've just used it ever since. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Tell us about soul retrieval briefly.
Sure. In shamanism, we talk about soul loss that usually accompanies a very stressful or traumatic or difficult event or situation, even time in one's life to process. And in psychology, they would call it more like also trauma related or a difficult experience, but they would call it more like splitting or dissociation. And so when I work with the client, I enter into their timeline and um, I'm not looking for anything in particular and they haven't shared anything with me. And I just go into their timeline and I see if there's any parts of the person, any soul parts that want to come home. These are parts that protected themselves from the event or circumstance. And so they kind of left the body, if you want to think about it that way. And if a part shows up in the session, then I do my best to share with the person the time, the age, the date, or the event that I'm seeing, and make sure we're on track with something. And then sometimes more information will come through just to confirm the experience and what that soul part wants the person to know or to learn or to remember, or what gifts they're bringing back with them or what have you. And then we just call that soul part back into one's body and, integrate the two to create a more, it's very subtle work, but it's very powerful work. It creates a sense of wholeness. And like I said, remembering and kind of owning all parts of ourselves that may have been separated for a while.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. So one of the things that I have done in my life recently, and probably in the last 10 years, is I've started calling back my spiritual gifts that are really important for this lifetime. Um, is there a part of soul retrieval that can encapsulate that piece as well?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it really just depends on what part of self was so overwhelmed or affected, and the timeline around that. For example, let me try to think of an example. Let's say at 10 years old, someone had an inciting incident with a family member, and during this circumstance, a part of them felt unsafe. And so that part that could no longer tolerate being in the body separated. Now, if we're talking 10 years old, there's a lot going on for a 10-year-old. And it could be that part of that personality of the 10-year-old or part of their characteristics might have also kind of gone with the separated soul self. And so when we bring that part back, I've had it be many times where a person will get back to me after our session and say, I feel more vitality in my life. I feel like I love to roller skate again, or I want to do this or do that, or I bought my 10-year-old her favorite pair of shoes, and now I want to walk all the time, or whatever it is. But certainly it could be, yes, I feel more intuitive. I feel more connected. I feel like I can trust what I'm hearing now, or I'm remembering the visions that I saw when I was around that age or before that age, where beforehand I had forgotten. And so all things are possible in this process. It just depends on the circumstances that are at hand.
I got that. That's so beautiful. Well, and I believe that that's really what we get to do in this time in history is we get to let go of all the blocks that have stopped us in our tracks from, even before this lifetime. Like many, if you look back in history, you see the times in history where it just wasn't possible. It wasn't available for us to do this spiritual growth that we get to do in this lifetime because of survival, because of the economy, because of the depression, because of the wars, whatever it is that has been previously, we're in a really amazing time in history right now. And so those of you who are listening to this show and have listened to this show know that I speak about if you are challenged by anything in your life at all, there's more support available now than I believe there ever has been in any other time in history. So the internet is an amazing, amazing tool for us to explore. And of course it can be misused. And of course it can be, lead you down a path that you didn't expect. But really use the tools that are available to you to access whatever your soul is asking for right now. I say soul, and it might be charging for you. If it's charging for you, use the word spirit. Use the essence that lives within your physicalness. Whatever it is that you can access, connect in with those parts that want to be healed. Look, say, Spirit, I just want to be shown the right book that's going to help me heal this part of my life, or this pattern, or this habit, or this relationship. When I put on my music, show me which song is going to help me to access that part of me that needs healing. Show me which deck of cards I can use to get some wisdom. Show me a teacher. Oh, look, I just have a teacher here that comes on the show that can help you to access what your next step is. So you do past life regressions?
No, I don't do past life regressions.
But you do soul retrieval, you do intuitive sessions, you've got books. Where do they find your books?
Anywhere books are sold, you can find them anywhere.
Okay.
Google my name and books, and they'll come up.
Perfect. Awesome. Good. So, yes, Overcoming Toxic Emotions is her recent book. She's got her, tell us the names of the other books that you've written.
The Fearless Path and Spiritual Journal for Women.
Beautiful. Awesome. So journaling, folks, that's another really, really key piece to unraveling and unlocking those parts of you that are blocked, that want to be accessed and witnessed. So if you want to be witnessed and you want access to who you are, and you're connecting to me energetically as you're on this program, you can find me at brightbutterflynetwork.com or connect in with Transformation Talk Radio, and they can connect you to me. I'd love to work with you as well. So any last words before we end, Leah, that you feel is really important for folks to hear from you?
Well, I just thank you for having me on. And I think, again, going back to that trust piece, maybe spending some time with yourself, staying in your body and contemplating who you are and what your truth is. Because a lot of times we need to start there, just remembering our truth and what we believe and where we come from. It can really give us a lot of encouragement and power.
Absolutely. That's perfect place to end. So Leah, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I may be connecting in with you for a session soon, because I'm in a wonderful place to be able to do that work. So those of you who are listening, thank you so much for tuning in, and know that your life is up to you. So take it with the invitation to listen. Stop, pause, listen, and move forward if you need to, and step back if you need to. Be in the moment right now, because this is precious. So until next week, we will see you in all of your glory and witness you as the beautiful, becoming being that you are. So many blessings to all of you. Many blessings to you, Leah. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you.
And we will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empower Me Show with Pam Bright on Transformation Talk Radio. Tune in to learn more about living a fully empowered life. Remember that your life is up to you, and you can choose the spiritual path you are on. There is spiritual energy and wisdom in everything and everyone around you. Listen carefully for what the universe is trying to tell you in every moment. You are already being guided along your journey. Call upon your spirit guides anytime you need help with anything. Know that you are safe in every moment, even if it seems that you are not. For more information about Pam Bright, visit brightbutterflyenterprises.com or email theempowermeshow@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. We hope to see you next week.